Yes, less than 10 minutes it was, and we are rewarded with some spots. Woohoo! Very excited to see this boy. He has gotten so big in the last 5 months while I haven't actually been out and about on Djuma, and while I've seen other leopards, I'm still surprised at his size. Now, in comparison to yesterday, he did decide to put up the kill up in the tree, so we can see that it's actually quite a young buffalo. I'm not sure how much meat there is actually left in there. It seems like it's pretty much skin and bones at the moment, and this is a bit of a dreadful look, so if you are a little bit sensitive and prefer not to see these things, well, we're head back pretty much to Hosana. Now, like I said, I don't think there's a lot left, but it's been clearly enough to keep him around for 2 days, and you can see that tummy of his and how heavily he's panting. Well, it is starting to warm up, but I can tell you it's definitely not as hot as he's making it out to be, panting like that. But because his stomach is so full and he has to digest, he is probably has to put a lot more effort into just cooling himself down. I believe everyone's also saying woohoo for Hosana. I'm also very, very excited to see him. And so strange to see a buffalo up a tree. Quite a unique sight. Oh, my goodness. Somebody's fairly tired. He was sleeping in that same position when we arrived, and I was so busy looking at the buffalo in the tree and being mesmerized by that side that I nearly missed Hosana. But luckily, he's a very good guy, and he's sticking around, doesn't want to go too far away. Sleeping now. Diana, I do believe that I've had some luck today with the cat, although I cannot really claim it because we already knew that he was here. But it doesn't matter. It's always fun to see all of the leopards and all of the cats, and I know Vildy's smiling right now because he's very happy to see any spot or any cat, and just in general whiskers. Although he is very tired, sleepy cat. You've had a long night, I would assume. So he's definitely, well, as we saw, there are legs dangling from a tree, so he would do that as some of the leopards do in this area, or in general most of the leopards do in this area, to try and avoid competition and having his kill taken away by any other leopards. We know that Tristan was tracking Tandy roughly around in this area, so she could have come and stolen the kill from him. Also, Tingana could have come around and taken the kill from him, but mainly I would say in this particular area, hyenas, because there are hyenas that start moving around and they have very good sense of hearing, so they could have just picked up the noises of Hosana crunching the bone or moving around, and even sometimes the smell of the blood, or pretty much just the smell of rotting meat, and they could have come around here. So Hosana, in a very clever way, which he learned probably from his mother, has learned that the safest place to put the meat so that he doesn't get it stolen from anyone is just to put it up a tree, and then he can proceed to sleep on this on the ground. I do believe that somebody's calling me on the radio. I'm just gonna take 1 second to reply. Alright, I'm going to try and find out if there's somebody that would like to make his way into this area, because the radio is going crazy in my ear. But while I do that, and while Hosana sleeps off his very fat belly, let's go over to Scott and get an update of what his plans are. Well, he just got his head up to say hello. I know you guys are still here, and he hasn't actually moved an inch. Oh, now there was a bit of leg movement to reposition himself and probably get a little bit more comfortable. But other than that, I think Hosana is pretty out for the morning. It has been getting hot altogether, so I wouldn't be surprised if eventually, if the shade fades in this particular area, as there are some rays of sunlight that are starting to creep onto his skin, he'll have to move perhaps underneath a bush just to make sure that he's not as hot throughout the day. I do think that it's going to be a very hot day in this particular afternoon, so that's going to be interesting to see, and I'm sure the meat of that buffalo is going to start smelling in quite a funny way. Now, there are some squirrels alarming around this area, but I don't know if they can see Hosana from when they are, because he's not really out or he's not hidden all too well, or if perhaps they are pointing towards the direction of another possible predator. I haven't heard them for a little while, but we'll keep an eye out for them. Nikki, you're wondering if leopards have eye spots behind their ears. Well, the ears of the behind the ears of the leopard, they have got just dark markings, and it's just pretty much the tip of the ear is fully dark, and there's a white band at the bottom of it. They don't have spots at the back of the ears, partly, or it's considered because they actually use the back of the ears to help with their facial expressions and just general overall communication. So if the ears, or if the black part of the ears is exposed and it's gone forward, just like a normal house cut, then you know that they're a little bit upset. Or if the ears are moving and twitching at the back, then if there's a cub following a mother, then they know to just stand still and look. And of course, always to follow one another in the case of a mother and a cub, more than any other potential combination or social combination, just to keep an eye out on each other. And it's particular as well why the leopard's tail, or the tip of the tail, is white in color, which stands out very much from their general coloration, not the tip of the tail, the bottom part. Just so when a mother is walking through very thick grass, very long grass, and as we've been discussing today, there are occasions when the grass is longer than, or it's the same height as the car. So you can imagine that having to move through that grass, it's a little bit hard, especially if you're on the shorter side of things. So you need a focal point to start moving around. So the tip of the tail and the back part of the ears is normally plays a very important part in terms of the visual communication amongst the predators, the leopards with other leopards and lions with other lions. Just to make that clear. I'm not bothered. Jared's buddy, you're wondering if he looks more Tingana's side, more like Tingana in terms of size now than he did before. Well, he's definitely grown a lot. I don't think he's quite there as big as Tingana. Tingana is quite a big male, and he's got a much thicker neck than what Hosana does at the moment. But he's definitely grown a lot more in the last few months. And he has a very big male leopard look. So he's definitely grown into a bigger character, which obviously was as expected as he would age, but I think he's going to be on the bigger side of leopards, and he's not going to be a smaller leopard. I remember videos from a long time ago of him and Shangile, and it almost seemed like he was dwarfing Karula and Shangile at one point because he was going to be so big. So I think that trend has just carried on. He's definitely developed a bigger neck, a bigger frontal pecs, if I can call them that way, especially when compared to Tamba. Tamba is still a little bit on the slim side, but I think Hosana has been doing very well. And the fact that he's been allowed to stay in this particular area, which he knows very well, and Tingana has been quite tolerant of him, has probably given him that extra boost of confidence, because by this age, he would have already as well been kicked out or pushed away by Karula for her to have. And Karula is his mother, for everybody that has been wondering about this particular name that I'm using. But she unfortunately disappeared when Hosana and his sister Shangile were still quite young. So they've had quite an unexpected teenage years or growth. But they've been doing very well for themselves. And the fact that he's been able to stay in this particular area for as long as it is, I'm sure it's played a significant role in him having this advantage and being big and confident. And just it almost seems like he also wants to start developing a new julep. So I think this boy is going to fare well. It will be interesting to see what's going to happen. Hosana's definitely not worried and not shivering, I can tell you that much. Shame, maybe we need to send some of the warmth of the sunshine all the way to Jamie, all the way to the Masai Mara, because I think we're going to have a nexus today. He's got this typical leopard look, and well, just in general cat look, that he's a bit too full. Though his stomach is not as big as you would expect it to be. Sometimes, they have almost like a ball inside of their stomach. But he does have that look as in like, oh, so hot, so hot, so hot. I just need to try and warm up. But he's choosing a good spot. Because as you can see from all the grass around him, there's a little bit of a breeze going in. So he's not suffering altogether. Jacqueline, you're wondering if male leopards mature mentally as well as physically. Well, I would assume so, yes, in terms of what behavior they're supposed to show as they grow older. And then with experience, they also learn new tricks and they develop new habits or new traits of their particular personality. I do think some of them are always, certain things are always going to stick with them. For example, if a leopard is quite shy when he's little, he'll probably be the same when he's older. Or if he's more adventurous, likely he'll still be the same. But just with everything, I think they learn to take more calculated risks rather than diving in. And then, well, experience also shows them what to do and what not to do. So I think we could relate it to pretty much just everyone's behavior, or even human behavior, in that sense that as you grow older, well, then you mature and you start acting slightly different than what you did in your younger days. Responsibilities become different. He's going to have to become a territorial male, have females of his own, defend his territory, patrol, advertise his territory, call. So there are a lot of things that he will still have to do that he's still not quite doing. He's a little bit too young, but I think even in the time that I have seen him, he's changed. He's gone from, almost like a shyer version of himself when initially his mother was lost, and then he's just grown into a much bolder and almost like very sure of himself type of leopard. And you can see him here. He's got absolutely no worry in the world. So I can say so. Yes, there's been a change in his personality, but for almost like he's matured, as you say. He's become more of an adult leopard. You can always feel sorry for them. Caesar, you're wondering if leopards use strategies when they go hunting, or if they improvise. Well, I think it's a little bit of both. So they do know how to use the wind and the sun in their favor just to mask particularly their scent, so that they're not given away. And then the camouflage of their spots, and they know that they have to keep low on the ground and try to approach their prey. So there are strategies involved that they learn, some of them by instinct, some of them by role-playing when they're little with their siblings or their mother. But definitely they don't just see something and then just run straight at it. They've got to learn how to use the environment that they're in just to hide. Because although leopards are very fast, and they're only very fast for a short term of time, so they've got to try and approach and use their environment, go around, use the wind just to make sure they camouflage themselves and their scent, and then get close enough to their potential prey so that they can pounce on at the very last minute. So they do have to use certain strategies, but I also think that leopards in particular are very clever, and there's a lot of improvising in the sense that they are opportunistic creatures, so they will try to work a situation in their favor and just try to, of course, every hunting situation is different, but they will try to use them in their favor and just modify them, and then just making sure that it'll give them a better chance of actually catching whatever it is that they're after. Now you can see, this is a very interesting close-up, because you can see, we always wonder what the leopard fur will feel like, and you can see it's very coarse. It's not very soft hair. You can see it's actually to be able to survive in this environment, and all the little nitty and gritty things that come into his skin will, well, not his skin, his coat, I should say. They're going to get trapped in the hair just so that they don't go out and hurt him. So it's quite interesting to see it from that perspective. JM Video, you're wondering if a big cat's fur goes gray as they get older, or if becomes a different color. Well, some of them, I don't think it's quite that obvious around their body, but you can see it mostly around their faces. You will see that sometimes their face will go of a slightly lighter color that will just give them away, but it's not as radical as, for example, as we think about it in humans, or perhaps even some species of duck, where there will be a very, very quick shift, and you'll be able to tell straight away that that animal had a different coloration when it was a little bit younger. They do fade, and like I said, more especially around their face. I think probably that's the area where it's a little bit more obvious that it's an animal that's aged. You're so pretty. Hosana, you are having the life. We're gonna sit around with him for a little while longer, see if perhaps he does decide to go up in the tree. But while we do that, he's just busy looking at the vehicles moving away now, because obviously we are at a sighting with other vehicles from some of the lodges around. Let's go over to Scott, who's peeking into Torchwood, and see if maybe by any chance he'll be able to have a glance of one of the lions, although it's not looking that promising, unfortunately. That must have been hilarious, just watching all those mongoose mobs at jackal. I would like to see if they would be as brave with the leopard. Maybe if they had the element of surprise on their side, they would chase off Hosana, give him a fright, and maybe he would run up and get up and start moving. Would be quite interesting to see. Now, he seems a little bit more uncomfortable now with the heat, but there's more of a breeze, so I think he's just being a fuzzy cat now, like cats can be, because they want all the best conditions. And he's still breathing quite quickly, so that gives us the idea that he's probably still very hot and busy, spending a lot of energy trying to digest. You can see how his throat is moving. Now, because they don't sweat like what we do, they have to use their mouth and their system to pant to regulate their body heat. So just to make sure that they dissipate a lot of the heat that's coming in, and they use their mouth as a big air con almost. Oh, nice stretch. It's almost like he's on his massive, king-size bed, which is pretty much all of the surrounding grass. You see, that's a typical Hosana look when he looks up like that. I think that's the most typical thing that we can get out of him. So pretty. Molly, you're commenting on the fact that Hosana has got a very pink nose, and if that's the way it should be at his age. Well, yes, as he goes older, and as we were saying earlier, that sometimes the animals change a little bit of their skin color and perhaps they turn a little bit whiter. Actually, it's a good way of wrapping up that whole conversation. And I should have pointed out that their noses also, they tend to get darker as they grow older. So as he grows older, you'll see that he won't have such a pink nose, but he's still an indication that he's not a very old animal. And that's why he's got that pretty pinkish nose, which makes him very pretty, in my eyes at least. It's almost like he's thinking. He wants to go up, but he doesn't want to, but he's lazy, but, the heat is bothering him, perhaps the grass. I don't think he's decided just yet as to what he wants to do. He keeps moving and swapping around. What you doing now? Keeps putting his head up and then going back down. Then look up. Jared's buddy, I think maybe you are right. Maybe Hosana is thinking now, why did I eat that whole buffalo? Why? Yeah, I think that's one of the lines that we could go with. He's definitely not looking all that comfortable. But, he has to eat all that buffalo in order to survive, and just to make sure that he's got enough food to carry on growing into this big male leopard that will eventually take over a territory. Now, if you look at his stomach, it is full, but it's not as full as it can get. But it's part of the reason probably why he's panting so much, because there's a lot of meat in there, and protein takes a very long time to digest and to process. So it takes them a little while to get all of that until where they feel comfortable again. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I only experienced it once, and it was the most horrible feeling. I don't even know how it happened, where you have a braai or a barbecue and then you just eat so much meat that the next day you still feel sick because you've almost had like a protein overload. Nice shot of that little paw. So that's exactly what they feel. It's almost like having a protein hangover. And, they've got to sleep it up. That's pretty much what he's doing right now. Now, judging by the position of the sun, he's not going to be able to stay around there the whole day. He'll probably have to move into the shade of a nearby tree. But for now, and as long as it lasts, he's very happy not to have to move 1 inch to be able to enjoy the breeze that's coming through. Atomic Orange, you're wondering if they get more spots or bigger spots as they grow. Well, they are born with pretty much all of their spots already. There's not a real change in pattern, but what happens is as they start growing and their body starts expanding, then it's almost like their spots start stretching out. So he would have had all of these tiny spots, but maybe bunched up together and would have been a lot closer. So that's why when you see a tiny leopard cub, it almost seems like for the first few weeks of its life that it's actually just got black spots altogether. And as they grow older, well, then they start expanding and taking their exact place almost in view of us out here. I don't even know how to put that into words. It's just that they start expanding and the spots start growing and expanding with the animal's growth. And the more he grows, the more the spots are going to start expanding, or the bigger that they are going to become. I would like to be Jamie. I wouldn't mind being her at all. I actually think she's very cool. So here is me. I'm not really Jamie, but we're still with Hosana. And now it almost seems like he does want to get up. He's had his head up for more than about 30 seconds. He's still feeling quite uncomfortable, and he gazes up at the tree constantly. So I am hoping that he'll go up at some point and carry on moving, and perhaps maybe he'll show us how a leopard really climbs a tree. But so far, no luck. I think he's, I don't know, here's to positive thinking of the power of our minds combined to get Hosana to actually perhaps move. You know, you can just stay in the fork of the tree. We won't complain. Now, it seemed like far away in the distance there was something he could hear that obviously we could not, with our impaired senses, which are never as good as the animals. It seemed like there was something up ahead that he's been listening intently to. So I wonder what it is. It almost seems like it came from that area, because judging by where he's looking, well, he's looking in that area. So I don't know. We had some water bug earlier on that were running, dashing across the plain space up there, and we were hoping that maybe we were going to see lions chasing them or wild dogs coming after those water bugs, because they were really going for each other. But I think part of the issue was really that there was a male that was maybe a little bit too boisterous chasing females, and that's why they all went running, because we sat very tight here looking in that direction, and there wasn't really anything that we could see that would have prompted them to start running in that particular manner. But that was a little while earlier, and Hosana wasn't too fussed, but now he's been looking in that direction. And now he's back to not really caring. Just feeling a little bit too hot. We're going to... Are you going to... Definitely he will be here this afternoon, unless something unexpected chases him away. But I think he is having the best nap for now. So we've decided that we're going to leave him to his nap. I don't think he's going to be up to pretty much anything other than trying to digest. So we're going to allow him to just digest in peace, and we're going to start our long trek back all the way to Djuma. Who knows, maybe we'll bump into something else on the road. I am hoping for, Tingana, last minute leopard, the Hukumuri male, which I don't know, Tandi, Shadow and not Barbara. I'm not picky. It can be any one of them. Perhaps even a lion. Bye-bye, Hosana. Thank you for being here. So exciting. All right, I'm going to go out this way so that we don't... Ooh, we're going to get... I try to get out of here. We're going to back to Scotty and see if he perhaps finds also another mysterious leopard out of nowhere.